Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of the Pokemon Adventures manga, the story of Black and White. And with this, we've reached 500 chapters, and I think we're only halfway through or so? Barely? Maybe? Man, but then again, I'm a big fan of One Piece, so that should tell you all you need to know about my ability to endure. You should see, I wish I had recorded when I was going through JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Got all the way up to the beginning of JoJolion, but that's another story, literally. But in this story, previously, the Shadow Triad of Team Plasma attacked the Nazarene Museum to obtain the Dark Stone containing Zekrom, and they ended up in a showdown against a few of the gym leaders. But the gym leaders managed to overwhelm the Shadow Triad. The Shadow Triad were able to turn the tables by summoning the forces of nature. And despite Black's best efforts, the gym leaders were abducted, especially after it was revealed that the Dark Stone was sealed away in Lenora's bunker/workroom. But all was not lost, as it seemed Bryson managed to escape. Black realized, thanks to a hint from Lenora, that he would be able to get into the room because it's the same way he got to fight his gym battle with Lenora. As Black led Bryson down, it was revealed that this was actually a fake Bryson under the command of Getsus, and they subdued Black and obtained the Darkstone, bringing it to end to awaken Zekrom. But as the fate would have it, Bryson did manage to escape and took Black away to train, especially after it was revealed that while they kept the Darkstone, ironically enough, in the public eye, they kept the Lightstone containing Zekrom's counterpart Reshiram in the dark, despite it being found at the same time. But Bryson saw that the Lightstone had an interesting attraction to Black, so he took him off to train. But Bryson also went to find clues as to the location of Team Plasma's base. As Black trained and reached the end of his training, he met Dryden, the 8th gym leader, and his apprentice Iris that he had met previously. Dryden encouraged the two of them to team up, grow stronger, so that they may hopefully have what it takes to help save the world. As Black moves on to the next leg of his training, the question also turns to, what's been happening to White? Join me as I find out, won't you? Alright, the Who's That Pokemon for this chapter is Meloetta, Part 1. It's adventure number 40/500 chapters, titled With a Little Help from My Friends, which I believe is a Beatles song. We see Emmett and Ingo, accessing the comm system, saying, Anvil Town, final stop, Anvil Town. And we see some members of the press, or maybe just some, nope, they're definitely members of the press, taking pictures of the battle subway and all that good stuff. White looks out the window of the battle subway train, saying, the final stop. Feels like I've been riding this train forever. I bet. Shoot. Might have felt that way to the people reading this month to month, too. Suddenly, people with their cameras are, like, right outside the window taking pictures. White says, wow, so many excited people. They must be train fans. Just train fans? I heard this town is a popular tourist spot for them because it has a roundhouse and a turntable, too. Oh, yeah, okay, that is interesting. Oh, what the heck? Oh, suddenly an explosion goes off next to White and Snivy. Emmett says, is that his Pokemon? Kling Clang. Oh, okay. Ingo says, you do realize you're still in the middle of your final battle. You're going to lose again if you let your guard down. White rather nervously says, right, if I only become good enough to compete against the subway bosses. Which is saying something. Let's win this battle and prove how strong we've grown. He tells Snivy, to use Leaf Storm. It nails Kling Clang in the face, I think? Or I guess what it's called, a face. But Ingo takes note of this, saying, where exactly are you aiming? And he points to a part of Kling Clang, saying, this is where you should aim, at the core of my Kling Clang. It must be ruthless in battle. I'll demonstrate how even the slightest careless mistake could lead to your defeat. Turn your gears, charge up your energy, and use. But then he notices his clang isn't moving right. He questions, what? Why won't you turn? Emmett says, look, Ingo. The leaves from Leaf Storm are jamming the gear wheels. Ingo says, what? White then says, now. And Snively rushes in, I guess with cut, slashing at Clang, downing it. Oh. They hit each other simultaneously, apparently. Emmett announces over the comm system, a draw. We have a draw. Ingo grows frustrated, saying, I can't believe I fell for such a simple trick. Emmett tells him, hey, Ingo, did you know that even the slightest careless mistake could lead to your defeat? Oh, just rubbing it in. Ingo says, He comes over to White saying, White, that was splendid. I'm impressed that you managed to come away with a draw. White cheers, hooray! Emmett then says, I'll admit I had doubts about you at the beginning, but you finally managed to put on a decent Pokemon battle. Ingo says, you're being too harsh, Emmett. This train is returning to Nimbasa City, but you still have some time before it departs. Why don't you heal your Pokemon, then take a well-deserved break? Do a little sightseeing. White says, great idea. Come on out, everybody. And she brings out all of her, Pokemon. She has 6. Stunfisk, which I've never been a big fan of those. And Alomomala, which never been a big fan of those either, honestly. They gotta freak me out a bit. And a Stolosis. Yeah, same with those. Like, all of these Pokemon kind of creep me out a little bit. And maybe they'll grow on me with time, but oof. Ingo says, the new Pokemon you captured on the way here are looking good too. Oh, she caught them. Interesting. Emmett says, hey, have you given them nicknames yet? White calls the Stunfisk Dorothy. The Alomomala, which that's a mouthful, Nancy, and the Stolosis, Stoli. Okay. White then thinks to herself, looking to the Servine, saying, and then there's this Pokemon, who's been following me around for some reason. I couldn't tell if it was a friend or foe at first. I've gotten kind of attached to it since we've been training together. Maybe Pokemon battles strengthen the bond between people and their Pokemon. White then reaches a hand out to it, saying, here, I want you to come with me too. Amanda. Oh. But the Servine then smacks away her hand, and White thinks to herself, maybe I'm too optimistic? Something then catches the attention of her Pokemon, and they go rushing off the train. White questions, where are you going? But then she seems to catch notice of something too. Oh, a melody in the air. Okay, Meloetta. White says, the sound of a flute? How pretty. So uplifting. I wonder if the Pokemon are attracted to the music too. That wouldn't surprise me. Anyone would want to listen to such beautiful playing. Oh wait, a flute. Didn't Bianca have a flute in like the little cover part of the book? White spots her Pokemon saying, over there. Oh, that's... And yeah, sure enough, it's Bianca and she's playing a flute with her Oshawott holding the sheet music. White says, Bianca says, hello? A white voice there saying, here, I know you. We met in Striaton City and Celeste Castelia City. Bianca, your Black's childhood friend. And Bianca says, oh, hi, boss. White waves her off, saying, oh, please don't call me boss. My name's White. Call me White. Bianca says, sure. Long time no see, White. White says, what a coincidence. That melody was so beautiful, so soothing. Bianca says, oh, that tune I was playing? It's a musical score I was given at the town gate. It's a lullaby for the trains that sleep in this town. A lullaby for the trains. White says, I wish I could play an instrument. Bianca says, my parents had me take all sorts of lessons, piano, guitar, and whatnot, but I never mastered any of them. Shoot, the fact that you can play it all is impressive. Oh God. Bianca says, teehee, well, if you enjoy that tune, I'll play it for you again. But suddenly there's a horde of people approaching them from the back. A bunch of train enthusiasts shouting, a rare train carriage has just entered the station. We have to get a snapshot of it. White tells Bianca, look out. Well, Bianca is pretty much bowled over by the crowd, left shaken on the ground. Bianca is just utterly dizzy. White shouts, Bianca. White then helped Bianca to the train, saying, are you all right? Those train fans are so ill-mannered. Bianca says, don't worry, I'm fine. She then looks out the window saying, but I do envy them. White questions, you do? Why? Bianca says, I envy their passion. They're so enthusiastic about getting a picture of that special train. Really enthusiastic. There isn't a thing I can think of that I'm enthusiastic about. So I envy them. White says, huh. Emmett suddenly enters the picture saying, I'm overhearing an interesting discussion over here. It sounds profound. So I'm going to stand nearby and listen in. Oh, don't let me distract you. Go ahead, keep talking. Only for White to immediately push him away. Oh, Emmett also... Ingo is grabbing Emmett's coat, pulling him away too. White then sits down next to Bianca saying, really enthusiastic, huh? That reminds me of Black. You must have heard him shouting out his vow to win the Pokemon League championship all the time, right? You can't help feeling inspired after hearing that. Bianca says, yes, that's right. What is your dream, White? White says, well, I'm taking a break from it right now. But it's definitely being involved in show business. No doubt about that. Bianca then looks off to the distance saying, I don't have a dream myself. Black has a dream that he's really enthusiastic about. Sharon loves to help others. You can always count on him, and I've come to depend on him. Do you know what brought me to Anvil Town? White questions, no, what? Bianca says, someone is chasing me. White questions, who? Team Plasma? Oh, Bianca says, my daddy. Which takes White off guard. Bianca says, he's so overprotective. He doesn't want me to go on this journey. He dragged me home more times than I can count, which would explain why she hasn't really made much progress. I run away, but he keeps catching me, so I run away again. He's still searching for me out there somewhere. I haven't accomplished a thing on this journey except running away from him. Oh, and I got attacked by Team Plasma. They took my Pokemon too. So my Pokemon battles are not as good now. She brings out her Pokemon saying, go. She says, do it, Oshawott, do it, Litwick. And they get into a rather pathetic tussle. You know, actually looking at it from that perspective, that's actually even sadder than her just not being good in general. I relate to that a lot. Having a very overprotective parent, which, I mean, they mean well, but when you're not allowed to grow and develop on your own, it stunts a lot of what you could become. You'd learn a lot less. You have a lot less confidence. You have a lot less experience and intelligence about certain situation. No wonder she wandered down a dark alley. She's never really been out in the world like that. Oh, dang. Bianca says, see, I wasn't very nice to my father before I left this last time around. I raised my voice at him. I told him, I'm going to figure out what I really want to do with my life on this journey. But as Bianca begins to sob, she says, but I haven't figured out anything yet. I haven't even been able to help out Professor Juniper. And after all the support she's given me, Bianca then begins to bawl her eyes out. White tells her, you mustn't give up. Bianca says, but I don't know what to do anymore. White thinks for a moment, but then she realizes something. She calls out, Ingo, Emmett. The two come marching in. Emmett saying, yes, I've been waiting for your call. How can I be of help? White says, which train goes to Castelia City? And what time does it depart? They look at each other. Emmett says, Castelia City. Ingo says, where are you going? White says, Cafe Sonata. Cafe Sonata. White then says, Bianca, can you play that tune for me again? Bianca says, sure. And Bianca begins to play. Well, I don't know if White is recording or kind of broadcasting it to someone through a cross transceiver, but it seems that tune also seems to catch the ear of Meloetta. As the train departs, we pick up in Castelia City, down a narrow street. See, now Bianca's a little bit more apprehensive about dark alleys. Though, that is a sad, because now she's fearful because she's been victimized before. You know, someone should never be made to live in fear. As White and Bianca walk down the narrow street, Bianca says, hey, where are we going? I don't like this street. White says, I was listening to you perform and I thought, you're not exceptionally good at playing your instrument, but there's something about your performance that touches the heart. Bianca says, oh, come on. You're just saying that to cheer me up. White says, no, really. I've been working in showbiz for a long time. I can sense these things. You have a certain something, a mysterious charm that transcends technique and look. That's what I consider real talent. The Cafe Sonata is a famous club. It launched a lot of famous musicians. The guitarist here heard you playing over the cross transceiver. He'd like you to play for him in person. This is a great opportunity for you. Ooh, that full-on Back to the Future. And she's like, hey, Bobby, you heard that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this. As White enters, she says, "Good evening, it's me, White." Oh, jeez, the whole place is in shambles. The guitarist, oh, his arm is trapped under one of the speakers. What the heck? White says, "What happened here?" The guitarist says, "White, be careful," as something descends, almost hitting her, but White manages to get out of the way. Bianca calls out to White as we see a Volby? What the heck? Why is a friggin' Volby here? Did it somehow break in by accident? As they help get the speaker off the guitarist's arm, he says, "How about that? Finally managed to meet a mythical Pokemon." So, a mythical? So the Meloetta is here too? Did it bring the Volby? White questions, mythical Pokemon? The guitarist says, "I've been playing my guitar at this club all the time in hopes of meeting it one day. And now I did, but that Pokemon came chasing after it." As the Volby is just pecking around the place as White and Bianca tend to the guitarist. White says, "So, where is this mythical Pokemon?" But suddenly, a melody hits Bianca's ears. She says, "Huh? A song? Oh, and the Meloetta is in distress as she's on the light that the Volby is pecking at. Bianca says, "It's not a song, that's a cry." The guitarist says, "Right, the melody Pokemon, Meloetta," which I keep forgetting it's a mythical Pokemon. Huh. I've heard that many musicians created their masterpieces after being inspired by its cry. I wonder why the Volby is trying to attack it, though. Jeez. But as the Volby gets closer, White sends out her Stunfisk? Yeah, Stunfisk, saying, Dorothy, protect Meloetta." But the Stunfisk is easily kicked away by the Volby. Meloetta zips away from the clash of the two Pokemon, hiding behind Bianca. Bianca, seeing the frightened Pokemon, says, well, thinks to herself, "It's so frightening, but I can't do anything to help." The guitarist then says, "Just when I thought my dream was about to come true, I had a tune I wanted to play with Meloetta if I ever got to meet it. But I can't play the guitar with this arm. What's the point anymore? What have I been living for until now?" Dang, that's brutal, man. Oof. Deep voice is back. Bianca thinks for a moment and then holds out her hand to the guitar, saying, "May I look at that sheet music?" As she grabs it, she says, "This is the only thing I can do to help. I'm not a great guitar player, but I'll give it a try. You mustn't give up. You really mustn't give up." She begins to play. Okay, you know what? I'm actually glad for this. I kept saying that I really want to have a moment where Bianca, gets to shine a little bit. Kind of just like with Sharon in Black that one time. Bianca gets her moment too. I'm actually happy to see it. I gotta tell you, the Black and White story arc has done pretty good so far in making it so that no character really gets left out. That was one of the highlights that this series had previously. And I feel like it's kind of been getting a little bit less over time. Only so much spotlight to share amongst various characters. But it's back, baby. Alright, the Who's That Pokemon for this chapter is Meloetta in her her two forms. Aria form and Pirouette form. So that's the Pirouette form. Okay. So Meloetta 2 is adventure number 41, A Lost Melody. As the wild Volibee and Stunfisk continue to battle, White questions, "Bianca, what are you doing?" Bianca turns to her, saying, "This is his dream. This musician has been practicing the guitar his whole life because he wanted to play a duet with Meloetta. And now that it's finally possible for his dream to come true, he can't do it because he hurt his arm." The guitar says, "She's right, and this might be my chance of a lifetime. I'd be grateful if I could at least hear you play with Meloetta." Bianca says, "It would be an honor. I don't think I'm as good as you on the guitar, but I'll do my best." He looks at the sheet music, saying, "Is this it? The Relic song? It looks very old." The guitarist says, "My mother loved this song. I keep it in memory of her. She was always telling me, if you're ever lucky enough to meet Meloetta, be sure to play this melody together. She told me that Meloetta lost its melody when the world became filled with sorrow, and that's why I started playing the guitar." Bianca says, "Oh, that was your mother's dream too. Okay then, I'll give it a try." Yeah, no pressure though. As Bianca begins to strum the guitar, the Volby, what's the word I'm looking for? Redirects its interest to her and goes into attack. Bianca panics, but Stunfish manages to intervene, shocking it. Bianca then says, what is that Pokemon wearing? A bone? Or is that a skull? I can't do this. She panics. White says, pull yourself together, Bianca. Help that guitarist fulfill his dream. I won't let that Volibee get in your way. Bianca takes that in. And as White brings out her Solosis and Alomola join in the fight, Bianca says, all right, after all, I promise. And so she begins to rock out on the guitar, drumming away. The Relic song. Love the shot for this. Bianca begins to strum. The guitarist tells her, take your time, there's no hurry. Bianca says okay. And as Meloetta watches, Meloetta begins to sing. White thinks Meloetta has started to get into the rhythm. Okay, so now Meloetta's just nodding her head. This Volibee friggin' is just so intensely set on absolutely killing her. Volibee bats away all of White's other Pokemon, goes for Bianca again, only to be stopped by Alamola. Bianca's still focusing. White thinks Bianca is concentrating hard. At first, she was having trouble finding the right notes to keep the rhythm, but now the melody is starting to flow. Now, Meloetta begins to sing. Okay, I actually looked up the Relic song, and my God, this thing is beautiful. Like, yes, it is a beautiful song. The guitarist says, the Relic song, that's it all right. Meloetta is remembering the lost melody. Once again, Volibee beats down White's other Pokemon, glares at Meloetta, and goes in for a strike. The Meloetta's song grows higher and higher. Volibee is knocked back. White questions, Meloetta's song pushed Volibee away? Is that some kind of move? The guitarist says, I guess it's a song and a move. It's all coming back to Meloetta, now that it's harmonizing with Bianca. Meloetta looks joyfully at Bianca, is trying her best to keep up. Bianca strums and strums away, and then he finishes. Bianca slumps down, saying, I did it. White comes over, saying, nice work, Bianca. The guitarist tells her, thank you. It was a very pretty melody. Your duet reminded me of something else my mother used to tell me. The dance of this melodious Pokemon filled people's hearts with joy. Yep. That's what she said. The Volibee gets up, more angry than before. Walking at the door, 4 more Volibee come bursting through like a gang on fire. White shouts, they call for backup. The guitarist says, you must have thought Meloetta was weak at first, then got mad when Meloetta put up a good fight. I gotta admit, I thought maybe Meloetta had wrongly harmed the Volibee. But nah, Volibee just looking for prey. But now, it's looking for payback. Meloetta has found its courage. Meloetta unleashes a devastating song, hitting a high note like a bat out of hell with a beautiful voice. Bianca says, wow. White looks on, stunned. And Meloetta's foot perks in the air. Its hair flaps in the wind. White questions, what's happening? And Bianca notes, Meloetta's appearance is... And Meloetta enters her pirouette form. Or, is that it? Yeah, pirouette form. Bianca says, changing. White questions, is it because of the move it just used? And Meloetta begins to dance. A fierce rhythmic dance. Meloetta leaps into the horde of Volibee, springing from one side to the other, in between and across, dodging, ducking, and diving. White questions, this must be that dance your mother was talking about. The guitarist says, right, he remembered the old move you forgot. It got acquired a new appearance, too. It's then, at the moment, Meloetta begins to strike. Devastating hits against the Volibee, one after another. Back of the head, into the cheek, top of the head, into the throat. White says, it's not only its shape that's changed, it seems to have changed its type too, to fighting type. Oh, okay. But the first Volibee is still more vulnerable opponent, formidable. Bianca happily says, alright then, I better help Meloetta. And she sends out a Rasharat, telling it, go. White then says, I've got it, Amanda, and brings out her Snivy. White then whispers over to Bianca, saying, Bianca, I have an idea. My Servine, or I keep calling it a Snivy, Servine. First, my Servine Amanda will, and then Bianca says, Sounds like a plan. White has her Servine use Leaf Tornado. Always going for the face, this one. Getting it into the Volabee's eyes. Oh, but the Volabee just grins through it. The guitarist says, it had no effect. But White says, wait for it. It's then that the Volabee realizes, a little too late. Oh, it got something in its skull diaper. The guitarist questions, what? White turns to him saying, it protects his butt with a hard bone. That means its weakness must be in the rear, right? Well, dang, it's got a soft bottom. White explains, so it's got its attention. So I got its attention using Leaf Tornado. And then Bianca's Oshawott tossed its scallop inside the skull, using its uses as armor to shield its butt. Sure enough, the scallop comes out of the skull, and Meloetta leaps in, kicking the Volabee in the face. White says, now's my chance. Bianca questions what? And White throws a Pokeball, catching the Volabee. Bianca says, White, you don't mean... White says, that's right, I'm gonna make it mine. Bianca says, why? It's a bad Pokemon. He knows better. While the Volabee does look annoyed, White says, I like its attitude. Look at the determined expression on its face. It's valid. This Volabee will make a great villain in my shows. I've already come up with a name for it. Barbara. Oh God. Nice, huh? She gives a wink. Bianca takes it in. She then tells White, you know what? I've made up my mind. White says, huh? And Bianca activates her cross transceiver, saying, there is something I've always wanted to do, but I used to think I wasn't good enough. I can't wait to tell Professor Juniper. Juniper answers, questioning, what's going on, Bianca? Bianca shows off the form of Meloetta in her Aria form, saying, look, Professor Juniper, I'm with Meloetta. Juniper is shocked, saying, what? Oh, it's true. How did you manage that? Bianca tries to explain, saying, well, I used the guitar and to top it off, this happened and that happened. Pokemon are fascinating. There are so many things we don't understand about them. That's why I wanted to learn more about Pokemon. As your assistant, Juniper does a spit take, questioning, hold on a minute, what about your mission in Pokedex? I just finished fixing it. In fact, my father is already on his way to hand it back to you. Bianca says, don't worry, I found the perfect replacement. He's good at battling, and White says, huh? He even loves bad Pokemon. Bianca pulls White into the shop, saying, meet White. I want her to have my Pokedex. And as Cedric arrives on the scene, he hands the Pokedex not over to Bianca, but to White. White looks to the Pokedex, and the entry on Meloetta reads, Meloetta, the melody Pokemon. Its melodies are sung with a special vocalization method that can control the feelings of those who hear it. Bianca looks to Meloetta, high above on a light post, saying, thinking to herself, I'm so grateful to you, Meloetta. It's thanks to meeting you, that I finally figured out what I want to do with my life. As Meloetta dumps to the distance, White turns to her Solosis, saying, well then, you better continue your Pokemon battle training. Bianca questions, are you going back to see Black, White? White brings out her Volabee, saying, thinking about training on the battle subway first. I have Barbara now, so I want to return Brave to him. Why do you ask? Bianca says, well, I haven't heard from Sharon for weeks now. It's not like him at all. I thought Black might know what's going on. As White takes off on her Volabee, she says, I'll be sure to ask him when I see him. All right, then. That was actually pretty nice. Now she's got a flying Pokemon of her own, so she can return the one she got from Black. But that was a nice little moment for Bianca. And considering that I already knew what happens to her in the future, that was a great way of having her realize that. I wonder if that's how it happens in the game. Or maybe they gave her a little bit more attention than they do in the game. Interesting. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, the Who's That Pokemon for this chapter is Rufflet. It's adventure number 42. The beginning. No. We midway through. What you mean beginning? We pick up with Black, Iris, and Dr. Logan as they're walking through a field with the breeze blowing. Black looks to the sky saying, what a beautiful day. It's been so nice out lately. I hope the boss is doing okay all on her own. He looks to a beautiful day and thinks of White. Beautiful. Well, Brave is with her, so I'm sure there's nothing to worry about. He looks to his Muna saying, feeling lonely, Musha? The three of us have been together since we were little kids. It's been 9 years since... Oh, Black's beginning. Flashback. 9 years ago in New Vema Town, at Bianca's house, Black at 5 years old declares, I figured out what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be the best Pokemon trainer ever. He tells to Sharon at 5 years old and Bianca 5 years old. Sharon says, what are you talking about, Black, huh? Black says, like I said, I want to be... But Bianca's dad calls out, kids, where are you? Bianca tells him, we have to hide, and drops him over the fence using Stoutland. Her dad calls out, Bianca, honey, and the dad sees Unpheasant and Stoutland. There we go. The dad says, my Stoutland, my Unpheasant? The children must have taken my Pokemon out to play with them without my permission. It looks like my Pokemon have been fighting. Were the kids having a Pokemon battle? Even a professional trainer finds it difficult to handle other people's Pokemon. And pretending to fight and having an actual Pokemon battle are two very different things. Oh no, my Bianca. What if she got injured in the fray and had to be taken to the hospital? I'm coming, sweetie. Jeez. Oh boy, this guy's a little too much. Jumped to way too many conclusions. It's great that he cares, though. Sharon says, he's gone. Bianca says, he sure is. They say, peeking over the fence. Black walks away saying, and he took the Pokemon with him. Now we can't have any more battles. Sharon says, hey, Black, you better tell Bianca's father we're sorry for worrying him. Bianca says, that's right. Daddy says he doesn't like me playing with you too, you know. Black says, really? Bianca says, especially you, Black. He says you play too rough. I don't want anything to happen that'll make him tell me to stop playing with you guys. Black thinks about it for a moment and says, me neither. Let's go say we're sorry right away. The dad says, you were doing what? Practicing to become Pokemon trainers in the world. Black says, that's right. So can we borrow your Pokemon again, please? He says, holding out his hands. Bianca's father slaps his hand saying, let you? My Pokemon? No, and no. Black questions, but why not? Bianca's father says, you're too young and it's dangerous to use other people's Pokemon. I'm already worried sick about Bianca every time she has playdates with you ruffians. My barber says it's giving me gray hairs. And shoot, is your hair already white? If you don't learn how to calm down and play quietly, I won't let you play with Bianca again. Bianca starts to cry, and her dad takes her off, saying, now, there, you've done nothing wrong, Bianca dearest. Off to your room with you. See, not even listening to why she's crying. Oh my goodness. Black says, okay. I promise I won't stage Pokemon battles with other people's Pokemon anymore. Instead, I'll study them. Can I borrow some books from your library? And we pick up with Black studying. Interesting. So that's why he took to studying. Okay. As Bianca's father looks in on Black studying away, he says, he's been awfully quiet since that conversation. Bianca says, hey, Black, want to go out and play? But her father says, now, Bianca, you mustn't interfere with your friend's studies. And he walks off saying, what a relief. Sharon thinks to himself, has Black really given up on a dream of becoming the best Pokemon trainer in the world? Oh, Sharon. Meanwhile, Bianca is flailing on the ground saying, boring. As Sharon peeks over the book that Black is reading, he shouts, he hasn't given up after all. Black then slams down the book, hops over the table saying, I finished reading them all. Do you know where the public library is? And they all go racing off. Sharon saying, wait for me. Bianca's following saying, let's play. Black says, hurry. And of course, Bianca is a lot less enthusiastic, seeing nothing but books. As Sharon watches Black go through the books in the library, he thinks to himself, you're only having Pokemon battles to copy the grown-up. I didn't think you'd get so into them. And since then, the next day, Black goes racing out saying, bye, I'm going to the library. Bianca calls out, boring, Black won't play with me anymore. Well, Bianca's dad says, phew, I'm so relieved. And so Black is in the kid's space reading, saying, I get it. So that's what I have to do. Way to determine who's the best Pokemon trainer. The champion of the Pokemon League is the top trainer. Sharon, Bianca, I've got it. Check this out. And he goes running off. He throws down his Pokemon League victory plan. Bianca questions, what's that? Black says, my strategy plan. There's this battle tournament called the Pokemon League, see? Whoever wins that tournament is the best trainer around and becomes the champion. As Bianca looks through it, she says, terrible handwriting. Well, Black tells him, the tournament is held once a year. And a whole bunch of Pokemon trainers from all over the region compete in it. Sharon says, so if you win the tournament, Black says, but wait, that's not all. I also have to fight the Elite Four, the previous champion. Funny enough, in the manga, you could literally see all those conditions forming. Like, he went from tournaments to taking on the Elite Four to taking on the previous champion. Well, no, he took on the previous champion before. And then the Elite Four is made up of other champions, or the Elite Four were people who had the opportunity to take on the champion. Sharon says, so to win the Pokemon League, You have to defeat the Elite Four plus the reigning champion? Black says, yeah, but first you have to even qualify, you have to challenge them. Qualify to challenge them, I have to collect all 8 gym badges. Sharon looks closely, saying, and to collect the gym badges, you have to defeat the gym leaders of all the Pokemon gyms. And to fight the gym leaders, you have to visit their gyms in different towns all over the Unova region? Bianca says, so you'll have to travel a lot and far away. Black says, right. I have to go on a training journey. Yep. Sharon says, but will your mom and dad let you travel all by yourself, Black? Black says, that could be a problem. Plus, I've got kindergarten. But I can't visit the Pokemon gyms without traveling. If I don't visit the Pokemon gyms, I can't enter the Pokemon League. I've got to figure out a way to convince my parents. Sharon says, how about this? Blah, blah, blah. Black says, I've got a better idea. Blah, blah, blah. Bianca looks to the TV saying, oh, look, our neighbor's on TV. As they watch, Sharon says, he is, he's a super famous Pokemon researcher. Black says, As the reporter interviews Cedric / Professor Juniper, he says, really, a new Pokedex is under development, Professor Juniper? Cedric says, yes, I'm very much looking forward to the prototype. This high-tech instrument gathers information on the Pokemon you encounter. The reporter says, I see. Does that mean you'll be going on a journey to collect data for your new Pokedex? Cedric says, oh, I think not. It's better to leave that to the young folk. Black gets excited, saying, this is my big break. Sharon questions that, Bianca just says, Black, I can't see. But Black turns to them saying, helping a famous researcher is the perfect excuse for going on a training journey. Take me to his house, Sharon. But Sharon says, but we're too little. Something's outside the window. It's Muna. Oh, the Muna was already attracted to his dreams. And as Black, Sharon, and Bianca race off, Muna follows. But Sharon stops Black, saying, hold it, Black. You need to settle down first. He's not going to take a bunch of kindergartens seriously. It would just show up at his doorstep out of the blue. In fact, what do you think will happen if Bianca's father finds out we went to see Professor Juniper? That'll be the end of your plan right there. Black says, but what if he picks some other kid first to travel with his Pokedex? Sharon says, don't worry. He said we're still working on it. It'll take a while. Black says, what do you think it'll be like, Sharon? The Pokedex and the gym leaders, what kind of Pokemon will I get to meet? And his head gets flooded with more and more dreams. The journey, the challenge, the victory. With that filling his head, what happens after he achieves all of that? What happens beyond his dream? I hope it's not what happens to most people who get to their dream. Oh God, he's gone stupid from all the dreams in his noggin. Sharon says, Black? Bianca, Black stopped moving all of a sudden. He must be thinking too hard about winning the Pokemon League. We gotta distract him somehow. Do something, Bianca. Bianca says, leave it to me. Hey, Black, it won't look good if you go see him anyhow. He won't take you seriously without a Pokemon. You should go after you catch a Pokemon. I'll look for a good Pokemon for you, Black. And she goes running off into the grass. Sharon calls out, Bianca, no, we're only making things worse. Bianca says, this is so cool. Our first time ever capturing a Pokemon. They jump out of the grass oh, it's a Rufflet. Don't tell me. And it looks like Bianca interrupted it eating some berries. Bianca panics. Sharon hears her shriek, and the Rufflet is, pecking at her hair. Ouch, ouch, I'm sorry. Sharon says, oh no, Bianca made a wild Pokemon mad. What do we do now, Black? Black, snap out of it. Sharon looks to Bianca, then looks to Black, and he races off to help out Bianca, only for something to approach Black. Muna glomps onto his head. Sharon turns, calling out to Black in shock. Oh, it begins. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Wow. A while back I questioned what would happen once White got a full team. And now she has a full team. So her section just kind of slid over. And now she's more even with Black. And she hasn't gotten any badges, but still. But she also doesn't have Braviary in her party anymore. Interesting. So her most powerful one is, that Volibee was a lot stronger than I thought it was. 35? No wonder it was overwhelming all of her other Pokemon. Yeah, her Stunfisk and Alamomala are her most powerful, or were her most powerful before that outside of Braviary. But it seemed like White didn't want to rely on Braviary. Okay, so the Volibee is definitely going to evolve at some point. Barbara. Yeah, because there's always the kind of good flying Pokemon and the bad flying Pokemon, Like how you got your Pidgey line And then you have your Spearow line. I guess it would have been Tailo and Wingull. It would have been the line in the 3rd gen. Because I don't think 2nd gen had it. But 3rd gen had Tailo and Spearow. 4th gen, I don't think had anything. It was just Starly, I think. Yeah, it was just the Starly line. Well, actually, no. That doesn't work for this generation. Because that would have been P-Dove and something else. Okay, no. And so I'm both kind of right and kind of... This is more like the far-fetched Doduo situation. It is kind of like Tailo and Wingull, though. Yeah, but it's not always a perfect one-to-one. But it will be interesting when her Volibee actually evolves. I want to see how that goes down. Her Pokemon better evolve. I swear to God, her Pokemon better evolve. I'll be mad if it doesn't. But she has a pretty good distribution. It's just interesting that she's managed to catch more Pokemon than he has at this point, though. Alright, moving on. Alright, the last chapter of this volume and video, the Who's That Pokemon is Muna. That's funny. Haven't gone this long with all of them, and only so much has changed. Adventure number 43, Tooth and Claw. As Muna is glomping down, while munching down on Black's head, Rufflet is flying off with Bianca, and Chirrut is panicking, saying, It's eating Black, and Bianca is in trouble too. And he starts to cry because, child, saying, what should I do? But Muna finally gets done eating all of Black's dreams, and Black says that was refreshing, but it feels kind of weird too. Everything has gone white as he analyzes the world around him. Everything else goes to black, leaving just the importance of the white. White comes too, saying, Sharon comes over saying, Black, your head isn't gone, your face isn't gone, your hair isn't gone, I'm so glad. Sharon looks to the Muna flying around saying, so what was that Pokemon eating then? Black says, sorry, Sharon, my head was totally full of Pokemon League until a minute ago. My mind feels a lot clearer now. And I just saw something. Sharon says, what? Black says, and draws something in the dirt, and draws something like the talon of a bird. Black says, something that looked like this. Sharon says, a footprint? Black says, yeah, that's what I thought. Sharon says, where'd you see it? Black says, dunno, it just kind of popped into my head. Sharon is a bit taken aback. And as Black goes into the tall grass, Sharon says, what if it's dangerous, Black? But Black says, I bet it's somewhere around here. And he finds the Rufflet footprint. Black says, found it. Sharon says, what Black saw inside his head? Sharon thinks, was real? No way. He must have seen it in real life somehow. Wonder if it's because of that strange Pokemon chomping on his head. Black manages to spot the Rufflet with Bianca. He says, Sharon, that must be the Pokemon's footprint. This footprint is deeper than the others. There are crushed berries all over the place near it. Look over there. There's Bianca's footprint. He stepped and crushed the berries too. I think the Pokemon was crushing the berries to make it easier to eat. Bianca must have interrupted its dinner. It found a tasty looking berry and crushed it so it could eat it. Yum. Then all of a sudden, and then Bianca came stomping through. Black says, no wonder it's mad. Sharon says, but we can't just leave Bianca here. Black holds up the remains of the berries, saying, hey, your berries are fine. Bianca didn't mean to bother you while you're eating. You should forgive her. The Rufflet drops her. The Rufflet eats up the berries, and they take Bianca away. Oh, God. At Bianca's house, her dad freaks out, saying, What? My darling little Bianca is hurt? He starts to faint, and Black says, careful. And then the man smacks away Black's hand. Seriously, stop smacking the little kid, even if it is just his hands. Bianca points to a scratch, saying, look, Daddy, see? I have a scratch here. And I scraped myself here, too. And her dad picks her up, dashes off with her, saying, no, antiseptic, antidote, absolute bed rest. Bed rest, oh God. Then he starts nagging the boys' heads off. Over at Sharon's house, they're having a sleepover. Sharon says, he was really mad at us, wasn't he? Black says, yeah. Sharon thinks, anyway. And he reads the entry on Rufflet. They crush berries with their talons. They bravely stand up to any opponent, no matter how strong it is. Sharon says, it was just like Black said. But Black sees something else, saying, wow, this is the evolved form of that Pokeball we saw? Cool. It changes from a Rufflet to a Braviary. I'll name it Brave. I've got to think about what a Pokemon's name will be after it evolves to match it with the right nickname. Sharon says, what? Your nickname a wild Pokemon? You can't name a Pokemon that you aren't friends with. Black says, it's okay. That Pokemon's going to be mine soon. It flew really high, even with Bianca in its beak. It's so strong and fast. I'm in love. I want it on my team. Sharon says, okay, but to capture a Pokemon, you have to fight it first. How are we gonna fight it if we don't already have a Pokemon to fight with? Black says, we do. I've got a Pokemon who will help me. Sharon says, you mean? And Black has a whole bunch of Pokeballs saying, you're the best, Sharon. Thanks for spending all your allowance to buy these Pokeballs for me. Sharon says, it's okay, Black. Oh, and good luck. Hey, Sharon, please keep half of them for yourself, kid. That's a lot of money to spend, especially for a kid. But Black gets out into the tall grass, saying its nest supposed to be around here somewhere. Then he hears flapping. The rufflet is up above. It's kind of banged up. Black races to the Pokeball, saying, found it. Sharon says, how are you going to fight it back? Fight it, Black. Black reaches for the Pokeball, saying, before we make a plan, let's start with this. And he throws the Pokeball up into the air and misses. Dang, rough. The rufflet sneers at him and then goes zooming in, hitting Black a little. Black throws another one, but the rufflet dodges, hitting Black again. Black gets a nosebleed, but he says, haha, Brave. That's the name I picked for you. Do you like it? You're gonna evolve into a Pokemon named Braviary soon, aren't you? I get you, you know. First time we met, I saw you were covered in cuts and bruises. You like to fight, don't you? You're full of so much energy, you don't know what to do with it all. You're just like me. Very ADD coded. But none of the Pokemon in this field are a match for you, are they? So, why don't you come with me? My dream is to enter the Pokemon League, to fight the Pokemon League and win the Pokemon League. Doesn't that sound like fun to you? Well, the Braviary goes in, clawing at Black, really cutting him up quite a bit. Sharon calls out to Black, but Black says, okay then, I'll beat you in a Pokemon battle. If I win, you join my team, okay? The rufflet looks nonplussed. Black says, you don't think I can do it because I don't have a Pokemon, right? But I do have a Pokemon already. A Pokemon who is interested in my dream. As Boona comes out, Black tells it to go, and it goes for the Braviary. But Braviary dodges and pushes Boona into the dirt. Black says, you're even faster than yesterday. That doesn't surprise me, though, because you aren't carrying Bianca this time. Wow, you sure are fast. I want you on my team even more now. And he tells Moona to use Psychic, which hits the Braviary pretty hard. Oh, no. I think the Braviary took a dive. The Rufflet took a dive. I don't think it hit him that hard. Or maybe he was trying to fight through it. I'm not sure. Those panels after Moona starts using Psychic, it's kind of hard to tell. Regardless, Rufflet gets hit. Black throws the empty Pokeball and manages to capture it. Black says, I did it. Chris says, I didn't think you'd be able to control a wild Pokeball, Black. Black says, it was easy. I met this one before I came here and I asked it to help me. It told me if I did, it could keep eating my dreams. See? Trent says, eat your dreams? He then thinks, oh, that's right. Luna eats dreams that people have when they're sleeping. I guess Black daydreams about winning the Pokemon League so much that it's like a real dream, except he's awake. Yes, this Moona has finer tastes. Black says, when this Pokemon eats my dreams, it clears my head, which helps me notice things I wouldn't normally. So he brings out the Rufflet saying, okay, come out, Brave. He hugs the Rufflet saying, I'm counting on you. Let's win the Pokemon League together. The Moona then hugs his head. She's like, snack. Black says, you want to come too? My dream is always boiling inside me, so you never have to worry about finding something to eat. Let's see, I'll call you Musha, because you're going to evolve into a Pokemon named Musharna. Sharon says, sounds good to me. Much better than Munch Munch anyway. Cut to present day. Black says, Musha joined my team because it was hungry for my dream. Brave came to fight by my side because it wanted to pursue the same dream. We all have a dream that keeps us going. Dreams are important for both people and Pokemon. But some people ruin other people's dreams and crush them to get what they want for themselves. Yeah, that's humans. That's wrong. So wrong. We'll destroy any organization that does that. He goes rushing off, Iris following, saying, hey, don't leave us behind. As we also have Dr. Logan following. Oh, that secretary reminds me of someone. Kind of looks like that one dude in Arceus, Legends Arceus. But then again, he was supposed to be related to... no, maybe I'm overthinking things. I guess Hisoka, the secretary, comes in saying, Mayor Drayden, I'm finished. Drayden says, let me see it, Hisoka. She brings forward a piece of paper saying, of course. It reads to the media, an emergency press conference. Drayden says, very good. Hisoka asks, but are you sure you want to gather the reporters here without telling them what the press conference is actually about? Drayden says, yes. I want you to spread the news, however. wherever and however you can, so that then he thinks to himself, Team Plasma is sure to hear of it. Oh, I didn't realize at first, but you got Galvantula. Gotta put him in there. I want you to think about the fact that I added in Galvantula. I think I already had Emolga, but I kept forgetting about it. But aside from that, just been Galvantula, and that was an addition, and I forgot about Emolga. So again, that really tells you how much of the Unova Pokemon I don't really think about like that. Even the one I actually like, Emolga, I forgot about. But why does walking on ice on a thin pond, or a shallow pond, I should say, and he cracks through it? He says, oh, there's a thin layer of ice on the surface of the water of this marshland. Iris, riding on her fracture, says, well, it is almost winter. Dr. Logan says, this whole area will be covered in snow soon. But Iris sees a snowflake saying, oh, snow, as they cross a bridge. Black says, what do we have to do next, Dr. Logan? Logan says, we're headed over to Bryson's place. Okay, so are we headed to his gym? And it looks like Logan shows them in a back way, saying, come on in. As the two enter, they say, ooh, oh, he's got a whole bunch of movie posters inspired by, like, Bruce Lee. Black says, this is Bryson's house? It's like a museum, Iris says. There sure are lots of movie memorabilia. Logan says, yes, these are all things connected to the movies Bryson appeared in when he was an action star. Films, scripts, posters, booklets, magazines, photos, costumes, properties, etc. Black says, oh, I've seen this movie. I didn't know Bryson was in it. Logan says, he went into the film industry as a master martial artist when he was quite young and quickly rose to stardom, but he suffered a serious injury while filming on one of his movies. That's why he retired from showbiz and became a gym leader. Iris says, hey, how come you know so much about Bryce's past? Logan says, because I was a doctor in charge when he had his accident. Since then, I've been Bryson's personal physician. I tend to his health as well as care for his Pokemon. Black says, oh, but when did Bryson decide to become a gym leader? Why did Bryson decide to become a gym leader? Logan says, because someone advised him to. That someone was the champion. Bryson says, if you got all this time to jibber jabber, you should be doing your job, and shouldn't you be doing your job instead, Logan? Logan says, of course. Come this way, Black. And he pulls him away and then shoves him forward, saying, there you go. Black finds himself sliding across the ice of Bryson's gym. Not just any gym, the Icarus Gym. I didn't have to look somewhere else to find out that name. God damn it. Logan says, this is the Icarus City Gym. You need to find the deepest level of the gym. Bryson calls up Black. Black says, Bryson? Bryson says, the fact that you made it this far means that you finished the 3 training sessions at the Two Blind Bridge. The first was to accustom your Emboar to using new fighting type moves. The second was to raise your entire team up to the next level. And the third was to accustom you to facing multiple enemies at once. Now you must make your way through this labyrinth of ice. And if, and only if, you can handle that, you may move on to your 5th training session. As Black finally brings himself to a stop, he questions, my 5th? Bryson says, that's right, a Pokemon battle against yours truly. Black says, yeah, I know. This is the battle I've been waiting for. He goes skating in. Meanwhile, inside Bryson's sleeve, where he's holding the light stone, it seems to be reacting to white. To be continued. Not criticizing it or anything. Honestly, we always need to get that moment where we understand why the trainer got with some of their first Pokemon, because I've noted it before. I like the fact that a lot of the trainers in this series already have Pokemon before the starters, because in a world full of Pokemon, it's weird the idea of anyone not having a Pokemon beforehand. And I feel like that we would need more of an explanation than, anyone having a Pokemon before. But the explanation for how Black came upon his Pokemon, how he first got to understand how Muna could help him, was actually kind of interesting. Maybe Black might never have been able to move forward as a trainer if not for Musha, but that creates quite a crutch. But it was also nice having White and Bianca have their situation. Of all things, after Bianca finally gets that fixed Pokedex, she just hands it off. Not to say that it was a very immaterial thing. No, that was pretty big. Her want to actually just grow her understanding. that's actually a big thing. To come to the conclusion that you lack so much understanding, but as well become someone whose whole purpose is about understanding. That shows a lot of growth on her part. And that's the thing for parents to understand. You shouldn't constantly confine your child. Let them grow on their own, experience on their own. It's one thing to try to be over them when they're young. But Bianca, at this point, she's, 14, 15? Let her grow, let her develop, let her experience things on her own, or else she'll never get any better. And that was a nice little moment. But I do wonder, what happened to Chirin? Bianca hasn't heard from him in some time. I don't know, feeling kind of worried, unless he's up to something interesting. But that was a fun little flashback, and Black's about to take on Bryson, as he learned enough that he can actually do so, and then Drayden. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I hope to see you in the next one. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.